guys, welcome to Coffee Convos. I know it's a little weird because I'm introducing the episode because this week I am alone, not totally alone, but alone without Kale. And I have a special guest who's been on the podcast several times before, Kati Morton. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to talk to you because, first of all, I just enjoy our conversations. And two, I feel like what I want to talk to you about is so relatable to a lot of people. And I've talked about having anxiety on the podcast many of times before. And it's weird because some people say, are you, like self-diagnosing? Are you diagnosed with anxiety, so on and so forth. And I'm like, okay, first of all, that's a little personal. And secondly, I'm not going to go out here and openly admit that I have something that I don't have. So I know a lot of people too have, been sympathetic and also, shared their stories with anxiety and just how it affects their life. And, to be perfectly honest, with anxiety for me, I didn't even realize that that's what I was experiencing. And I didn't know, what anxiety really was. I just knew how I felt. So not until I actually went to the doctor did I realize that it's what it was, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, of course. And I think that's really normal. I think, for instance, I'll have patients who won't even come to me because of anxiety. They'll have been referred from their doctor because they thought something was wrong with their heart, or they thought that they just could never catch their breath, so something must be wrong. It's very common for us not to realize that it is anxiety and to think it's something else, or think we're just completely crazy. I have a lot of patients who are like, I felt like I was drowning, and then I was like, I'm losing my mind. So you're not alone.
Well, so let me just backtrack a little bit because I never realized growing up that I had anxious tendencies. But now looking back on it, knowing that I do have anxiety, I look back on, being in high school and I would be driving in the car and be afraid, what the consequences would be if I was a minute late for school, or test anxiety, I never tested well. I always went into a test knowing the material. I studied it, felt confident, and then get to the test and go blank. And I mean, you could hawk that up to just being a bad tester, or you can hawk it up to the fact that I literally feel like I blacked out because I was so nervous to take the test, because I was so nervous to get a bad result. Everything just kind of made me anxious, and I never wanted to upset my parents, and I always tried to walk the straight and narrow so that I wouldn't get in trouble. And it was underlying, I believe, anxiety that I strive to be perfect. And
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
And that's super unhealthy.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, yes, you could say it's unhealthy, but it's hard. That's really hard for you. Do you know what I mean? That's a lot to try to do, especially as a mom.
Well, as a mom, I feel like it hit me harder because those things I could kind of, it's like you're in a testing environment, but then you're not in it. So then it kind of goes away, But not until after I had Jackson did I experience this. I've always been super clean, but not to the extent that it drove me crazy or made me lose sleep at night. And right after Jackson was born, I brought him home. I didn't take him outside, to be subjected to the public. And when people would come and see him at our house, I would make them take their shoes off at the door. They had to wash their hands with, hot soap and water, and then also put sanitizer on after they washed their hands to even hold him. And so I feel like it controlled my life because I was just focusing just on those things instead of like the happy moments that somebody was actually coming to see him, or, like he was building these relationships with people. I was more focused on, I don't want him to get sick. I don't want him to get hurt. I don't want him. And I don't know if that's like a combination of just being a new mom or a combination of anxiety, or if you've seen this before. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely part of the anxiety, but something that people don't talk about, because they talk a lot about postpartum depression, is that you can have postpartum anxiety. And if you're already predisposed, like if you've already struggled in your life at different points, like in high school and stuff, and kind of been like underlain throughout your whole life, the shift in our hormones when we have a baby can lead to postpartum anxiety. And so I think that it could be that, but it also could just be the fact that you have this other human that's now dependent on you, and you want everything to be perfect for them because you don't want anything bad to happen, because that's usually anxiety like builds around something bad could happen or something embarrassing, and so we worry. It's just worry, constant worry. And so, of course, what do we worry about with our children? Protecting them, keeping them safe, and making sure they don't get sick or ill in any way, right? So that's like kind of how it manifested itself for you.
Well, and I think, too, like, it affected my relationship with my husband. Everything was great, and we were college sweethearts, and, nothing really rocked our relationship up until I gave birth. And then he said that he felt like after I had Jackson, that Jackson completely, like, replaced him. And I didn't mean for it to be like that, but it's very hard to describe as a mother the unconditional love, and that you just don't have to try to love your child. Not that I had to try to love Will either. It's just a different kind of love. And I think I was experiencing some of the, postpartum, and not like in a sad way, but I have been told that you can develop postpartum anxiety, and I believe that that's what it was, and I was anxious all the time.
Well, yeah, and if you're so focused on, making sure everything's good, he's doing well, he's clean, he's safe, he's happy, he's fed, and there's a lot. Not to say, there's so much that goes into being a mom, right? And by and large, the mothers are the ones that take on most of the weight of childcare. And so a lot of husbands do feel like the children replace them. And I've counseled many couples over what we call, like, this sounds crazy to say it this way, but it's like cheating on your husband with your kids.
Yeah.
And it's just like time, right? And we only have so much time. And if he kind of feels replaced, it's almost like you're cheating on him, with Jackson, like that's where your emphasis is going, where all your energy is going. And it's very common, and you can overcome it, obviously, like talking about it and him just even telling you that that's how he feels, and you recognizing your focus, like that's just where it starts, and then making time for each other.
All right, guys, let's imagine for a second all of the things that you could do if you didn't have to spend so much time at the grocery store. You could spend more time with your kids, exercise, or get caught up on your favorite show. With Instacart, you can shop your favorite local retailers from the comfort of your home. No more sitting in traffic, looking for parking, or waiting at the checkout line. Thanks to Instacart, you can have your groceries delivered in as little as an hour or at a time that is convenient for you and your schedule. How awesome is that? So I absolutely love Instacart. I hate going to the grocery store because I feel like you run into literally everybody that you know and you don't know. And I feel like it takes me so much time to get through there. I always forget stuff because I forget to write down stuff on recipes, and it makes it so much easier just to be able to do it all at home and everything gets delivered for you. It is a total time saver for me, so I absolutely love it. Try Instacart and get $10 off your first order. To get this limited time offer, go to instacart.com or download the mobile app and enter our promo code COFFEE at checkout. That's $10 off your first order today at instacart.com or through the mobile app, and don't forget to enter our code COFFEE. Instacart.com or through the mobile app with our code COFFEE at checkout.
people have this illusion, and I want to go ahead and like clear it up, that I was just given this gravy train, and that my parents paid for everything. And, you know, I basically am like this trust fund kid and so on and so forth. And I just want to let everybody know that that is 100% not the case. I've been on my own since I was 18, and my husband graduated from college a year before me, had played baseball his whole life, and had never had a job because his parents considered, you know, like his focus in baseball and school.
Yeah, baseball was his job.
His job. And so his first job out of college was working retail for Sprint. And I got pregnant very quickly after we got married. And we got married in January, and I found out that I was roughly 4 weeks pregnant by Mother's Day. So that's pretty quick.
Yeah, not even 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was quick. And, you know, I feel like people, when I try to talk about my story, assume that I would have had all of this help, and that, you know, some of my complaints wouldn't be valid because I have access to, you know, like funds, and I have access to this and that. And that's just completely 100% not true. I was at home with Jackson, and Will was working retail hours, and anybody who has ever worked retail hours knows that you get your schedule a week in advance, and that's it. And your schedule's never consistent, and you also work late. So, you know, there was a lot of resentment, I feel like, that built up, not because he wasn't doing what he, you know, quote unquote, should be doing. He's, you know, working and he's providing. And I was very thankful for that. But as a new mom, I felt a sense of resentment because Will had never held a baby before Jackson. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
He didn't know how to take care of a baby, so everything was new. So I felt like, since I did know what to do, I felt like it was just easier for me not to try to explain it to him, but it would just be quicker for me to do it on my own. And so then that built up a lot of resentment. And then by the time he got home, it was like 10 o'clock at night, and the baby had already been bathed, had been fed, you know, everything had been done. And I was kind of like finished with my day. And it was sad because it was kind of like, in a sense, a start of his.
Yeah, well, and he was unwinding, and you'd been unwinding probably since 7 or whenever you put the baby down, you know?
Yeah.
And you're ready to go to sleep because you're going to have to get up early to get the baby, you know, take care of the baby again. Like, that's just what it is. I think a lot of people don't realize, I know this sounds really silly, especially since you do know this, but like how much work it is having children. Like, a lot of my younger patients will just think like, well, it'll help my relationship. It'll make things better. And I'm like, it actually doesn't do that. It's something that can grow. You can grow together, but it's like, it's so difficult. And the division of work is really hard. And if you don't see things the same way, you might not even have known to talk about it before. It can build up resentment, like you're talking about, you know, because he was doing his best to provide, but you were stuck at home all day doing all of the stuff with your child, you know.
Well, and, you know, you also get the backlash on social media. It's like, you know, I'm going to talk about this, and I'm already prepared that people are going to say you should be grateful because you were being able to stay at home with your baby while he was working. And I was incredibly grateful. That was such a blessing for me to be able to do that, but there was sacrifice in that. And I think that people don't understand. And when I say people, that's a very like general term, don't understand that moms who are staying at home, that have a husband that's, you know, working those types of hours and don't really have a break, it's almost like you lose your identity in just being a mom.
Yeah, well, how are you supposed to see your friends or, I don't know, go for a walk, go to the coffee shop, do the things you normally do? Yes, you can still do stuff like that with a child, but it's just that much more involved. And especially if we're struggling with anxiety, leaving the house can be hard, and worrying about who we're going to encounter can be overwhelming.
Right.
And something I do want to address, because I feel like nobody really talks about this, is just like judgment among moms. Like one of my friends had told me, because I don't have any children, but a lot of my friends do. I'm 35, so most of my friends who want kids are having them or have already had them. And she was telling me, she was probably 7 months along, and she was like, if you ever want to get unfettered advice, just have a child. She's like, I swear to God, every day somebody's touching my belly. Don't ask me for consent, just touching my body and then telling me what I need to do with it. And they don't know me.
Right.
Like, this is great. Like, we have to stop doing this to each other.
Well,
only offer advice when asked, and know that we're all just doing our best. It's so hard.
It's so crazy too, because you do get unsolicited advice, and it's like, okay, first of all, I'm out here just trying to do my best, and right now might not be the best time for you to give me advice during my mental breakdown, but I appreciate the fact that you think that you have it together so much more than me. And you do. I mean, it's sad. The mom shaming is sad, because we're all in this journey together, and you would think that people would look at it as like, let's do this as a pact, not as like individuals, like we're struggling on our own, let's like all struggle together. But I mean, even taking your kid, and I know you haven't experienced this yet, but taking your kid to like mommy and me classes, the looks that you get if your kid like pitches a fit or like doesn't want to do something, or so on and so forth, it's like, don't act like your kid didn't just do that last week.
I know. They all throw fits. They're children, right? They have no emotion regulation skill. Like, their brains just aren't developed. They throw tantrums. That's just what they do.
Right. That's just how it is.
Pinterest boards are a good way to get inspired about how to update your home and its style. But if you're serious, trust the experts, and it doesn't have to cost thousands. Modsy, spelled Modsy, is an amazing company that lets you design your dream space starting at just $69. They let you upload pics of your home, and they let you see the room expertly designed in 3D. Modsy.com is the revolutionary online interior home design service that starts at just $69. That is a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the cost of hiring an interior designer, and it's so much easier. Just take a few photos and measurements of your space, furniture and all, take their style quiz, and the Modsy designers create 2 custom design plans for you. I actually just use Modsy for my office, which I think I talked about a couple episodes ago. And I just redid my upstairs, re-hardwooded everything, and have kind of moved furniture around. So Modsy has been so great in helping me redesign everything, because I know what I want it to look like. I just don't know how to put it together. So Modsy's groundbreaking 3D technology lets you see different layouts and tour your virtual space. With their price matching guarantee and exclusive savings, you can shop all the beautiful furniture in your Modsy designs at once from one easy checkout. You get unlimited revisions, plus Modsy guarantees you land on a design you love or you get your money back. This month only, when our listeners go to Modsy.com, start a design project, and use code COFFEE, you will get 25% off. That's 25% off for our listeners at Modsy.com, code COFFEE. Modsy.com, code COFFEE. So fast forward, I've had Jackson, and I tell Will, I'm like, I feel like something's wrong with me, but like, I don't know what is wrong with me. And he's like, well, you have to kind of like explain, more. I'm a man, and I don't really know what that means. And I'm like, okay, well, I feel like I wasn't experiencing sadness, but I just felt like I couldn't sleep. And I would think these thoughts, like worst case scenario thoughts. So it would be like, I wouldn't be able to sleep with my bedroom door closed anymore, because I was afraid that like somebody would come upstairs and I wouldn't see them and like take my baby, or if he cried out and I was in a deep sleep, that I wouldn't be able to hear him, or like morbid thoughts, And he actually co-slept with me, which I know I'm going to get mom shamers that
are going to say, why would you ever let your baby co-sleep with you? I would guarantee you that more than 50% of people that are moms that are listening had a kid co-sleep with them. So
a lot of people do. Even some cultures, that's just how they do it all the time. That just is. So no judgments.
It just is. So, I co-slept with Jackson until he was like 2 or 2.5, which was far too long. And my husband basically put me on notice. He was like, he's getting out of the bed. Like, you have 6 weeks to transition him. But after 6 weeks, he's not going to be in our bed anymore. Like, it's affecting our sex life. It's affecting,
That's what I was just going to say. Your relationship with your husband, like how are you supposed to be intimate if your child's in the bed? You can't.
You don't. And the sad thing is like, I didn't really feel like I required that. Right. After I had Jackson, I just didn't feel
it's an extra. If you're feeling overwhelmed, I think a lot of people don't understand, especially not to say like men and women, but that we're so different, but we are in many ways. And I feel like women, especially the ones who had a vaginal birth, or any kind of birth, really, let's be honest, the way that it affects your body, how you feel about your body changes, your priorities change, and you're busy with the child all day. And one of my friends told me something that I never thought of, but she was like, after breastfeeding, because she had a toddler and she was breastfeeding, and she was like, I just don't want to be touched. Like, I just want my body to be my body. Like, I just need a few hours. Just like, nobody touch me. And so when her husband would come home, she'd like find herself like backing away to the kitchen to like, I just don't want contact. And I never thought about that, but you're almost like sensory overload.
That's how I felt. Like, I just felt like, I'd had a baby crawling on me all day, pulling at my shirt, because he breastfed for a while. And so, having him pull at my shirt and just be crawling all over my body all day. And by the time he went to bed, it was almost like, okay, this is a break from like everything. Like, I don't want to be touched, and I don't want to be I just want to be left alone. Like, I literally want to go in my room and I want to put on Lifetime and I want to watch movies that are unrealistic and realize that somebody's life is worse than mine. I didn't want to be touched. And you feel bad too, because I was holding this guilt inside that, I know that I should be there for my husband. And I know that, before Jackson, all of our whole life was just sex. That's just what it was. You had nothing else to do, so might as well just have sex. And then to go from that to not really having sex and just feeling so tired. And I just felt like a completely different person. And so he was like, well, maybe you should go, to the doctor and talk to the doctor about it. So with the type of insurance that I have, in order to get a referral to somebody like you, you have to go to your general physician. And
why would you need a referral? That doesn't make sense. But okay, insurance always frustrates me. But continue. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. They don't even understand what I do. Okay.
Well, because I think what you do is considered like a specialist, and for the type of insurance that I have or had at the time, you had to have a referral from your general physician for any specialist. So
gotcha.
I go to my physician and she's like, I can tell you without you even going, anywhere else, what you're experiencing is anxiety. And she said, I can prescribe you this, and I forget, whatever it was. I'm like, okay. And I am definitely the type of person, I don't like to take pills. Like, I don't like to take even Tylenol, like, unless I have to. So
yeah, I'm the same. Yeah.
And I hate having to feel like I'm relying on something. So if it's more than just me that I have to count on, then that gives me anxiety in itself. So
yeah. Like, even just the act of trying to help yourself makes it worse, kind of.
Yeah. So, I told her, my concerns with it, and she was like, you're going to continue having this anxiety or, you can try this, and if it doesn't work, then that's okay too, but at least you can rule it out, that you've tried this. And then if it doesn't work, you go to plan B. And I'm like, okay. So I go get the prescription filled. This is all against like anything that I ever wanted to do. And I'm like, this just seems like a bad idea from the start, but I'll do it. So I take the anxiety medicine for 3 days, and this is crazy, but I would feel like I had something like in my eye or like bugs crawling on me.
Oh, yeah. Like, I forget what they call that. It is a side effect, though. It's almost like tactile hallucinations. It's not, but it's like, oh God, I cannot think of what it's called, but it is a common side effect. Did she let you know about the side effects of it? Like what to look out for?
Well, she did tell me, but I don't think that she told me about like bugs crawling on me specifically.
Yeah.
But I think she did say something about just like generic, like it could cause like hallucination effects or, like whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, guys, let's get real for a second. Body hair is a reality, and we all have that one hair that keeps showing up randomly. Your favorite, that one that you always seem to miss, and it is with you wherever you go. Mine is actually always on my ankle. And in the summer months, we want to be silky smooth for all of our beach and pool fun. And that's why we love Flamingo. I personally love Flamingo. I have never had a better experience with a razor. I love that it has a little holder that you can put in your shower, easy pop on and pop off. It's sleek and it's cute. I just absolutely love it. I want you to enjoy shaving, and Flamingo designed a shave set that makes me really happy, and it is a $22 value. But just for you, it's $16 and it ships for free. It's so super easy. The shave set is your end-to-end routine in one reusable pouch, gel, the razor, the extra blade, lotion, and a holder so it doesn't get lost in your shower. Also, it's 2019, so obviously it's all cruelty and paraben-free. I actually love the little reusable pouch because whenever I travel for podcasts, I always put all of my stuff down in there, and I have everything that I need always. So get a set with all of your shave essentials from Flamingo, the brand that Vogue, Glamour, and really everybody is talking about. It's a $22 value for just $16 with free shipping today when you visit shopflamingo.com/coffee. That's right. Visit shopflamingo.com/coffee. But I would be laying and taking a nap with Jackson, and I would wake up and I would like be swatting at my face because I would feel like a spider or something was like on my face.
Oh, gross. Ick.
And so I was like, there's something wrong, like something very, very wrong.
Yeah.
And then I started having bad headaches, and I was like, okay, this is just not working. Like, I would rather just have the anxiety than feel like I'm having bugs crawling on me and having like migraines. So I just completely stopped the medicine altogether and started reading up on like natural coping mechanisms to deal with anxiety. And I've kind of been able to use those up until now. And, I do struggle. Every day is like a different struggle. And there's different things that like trigger you and, trigger anxiety, I feel like. But I have learned certain things in my life that might not have a place, if that be people or, whatever else. If they cause anxiety and I know that, then I've learned to eliminate that. And I feel like I've done pretty good with it, but I'm not going to say that like I'm 100% or I'm perfect or I don't have anxiety, because I definitely do. And different days bring, different stresses, just like anybody in normal life, that doesn't have anxiety, different days or different stresses. But, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's strange. Some mornings I wake up and I'm like perfectly fine. And then some mornings I wake up and I feel like I haven't slept because I've been anxious all night.
Yeah. And I mean, it is tricky. And there are wonderful behavioral techniques. That's what we call it, like self-help kind of stuff in therapy, things that I work with patients on to help manage your anxiety. But I want everybody else out there to know that there are a ton of medication options if that's something that you're interested in. There's not just one. There's like, I don't know, I feel like every year there's a new one that comes out. So if you've tried one, it didn't work, like if it did get bad, Lindsay, you could try a different one. I know you don't want to, and that's totally fine. Right. But there are a lot of options. I think the thing, and I don't know if you'd agree with this, but I had put together like this anxiety workbook a few years back. And it was just something I offered like free to my audience. And, I believe, because I'm more on the anxious spectrum as well. I'm not diagnosed with like general anxiety disorder or anything like that, but I know what you're talking about, like struggling to sleep and worrying about things. Like that's definitely more my own issues and things I talk about in therapy. But I believe that it all stems back to confidence.
Really?
I know that sounds really crazy, but yeah, because I feel like the worry comes out of either I'm not enough, I can't do enough, this isn't going to work out for me because something's wrong. Like I've done something wrong. That's like the perfectionist, right? Like, oh, I have to do everything just right or it's just not going to work out. Or like, then even we can talk about our relationships and feeling so anxious and wanting everything to go right. Then it's like, well, if I don't do this, then he's going to get upset and I'm doing all I can and it's just not enough. And it all comes down to like not feeling like you're enough.
Yeah. Well, and I'm so glad that you said that. But before I get into that part of it, can you tell the listeners where they can find, is it like a video or? Oh,
it's actually, I think we put it in the iTunes, like the iBook store. I think it's like $1 there. But it's an easy way for people to upload it, or they can find it on my website. KatieMorton.com. So they can either go to iBook and just look up Katie Morton Anxiety Workbook, or they can go to my website, KatieMorton.com, and find it. And you can just download it from there.
Perfect. Okay. That's kind of like what I wanted to transition into about the confidence thing, because I know even moms and not just moms, but just, women, probably men in general, with confidence issues and feeling like you're just not doing enough. I know that my anxiety sends mine to like a different scope, but for example, I have expectations that I've set for myself that I have internally made myself think that those are the expectations that my husband has for me.
Yes, without even asking him. Yes.
So like, for example, he gets up and goes to work. And even though I work as well, I'm taking care of Jackson. If it's summertime, he's at home with me every day. I'm trying to work, trying to do things around the house, trying to make sure we have food in the house, the various things that come along with just living life. But I had set like mentally like this expectation that, okay, whenever I get up, I have to make sure my house is spotless. I have to make sure Jackson's spotless and fed. And I have to make sure that, the refrigerator is stocked the way that it should be. And that, there's a hot meal when he walks in the door and, everything is perfect. Like the laundry's done and put away and everything's done. And also work and also provide an income for our household. I feel like I almost was setting unrealistic expectations that caused me anxiety because I knew I couldn't meet them.
Well, yeah. And then what does it mean if you can't, right? Then it goes back to that like self-confidence. Like I want to do all this because then it's perfect and then everything will be happy and it'll be exactly like I want it to be. And then we're like, hey, this is life and we're human and it never really pans out exactly as we want. We'll always forget something at the grocery store that we thought we needed. Or we have a child, so they make messes. That's what they do. You can't just follow them around with a Swiffer all day long or whatever. And I think, then we can spiral out of control a little bit at that point if that's what we base all of our worth in, and then we weren't able to do it. It can make us feel even worse, and then it can be hard to sleep that night because we didn't do what we needed to do.
And then on the, reverse side of it, it's like, okay, if I set these expectations for myself. I've mentally manipulated myself to think that my husband has these expectations as well. I don't meet these expectations that don't really exist. And then I feel like not fulfilled at the end of the day because I didn't get things on my checklist, quote unquote checklist done that I wanted to get done. So then I don't feel, validated or I don't feel like
accomplished.
Worthy.
Yeah, totally. And I think it's part of like the biggest component to overcoming our anxiety is honestly self-talk. And I know like my audience members are like, oh my God, you say that so much, but it's true. Like if you think about it, all the assumptions, expectations, all these lists, these things that we're putting into our own head is like, we're the only ones doing that. It's not like your husband's telling you that he expects a warm meal when he comes in or all the laundry to be done. Like if you'd asked him, he'd be like, no, like I can help out. I could do that.
Right. He definitely would say that.
Yeah. Like it's not like he wouldn't want to help. It's almost like those of us on the anxious spectrum of things, because really there's a spectrum of depression to anxiety and we can kind of toggle back and forth.
Right.
Those of us on the anxious side, often, like you said something earlier that I was like, oh my God, yes. When you were like, I could show him how to do it, but it'd be faster for me to do it myself. Mm-hmm. And I remember my mom telling me, because she has struggled with anxiety like her whole life, and it is hereditary, which is probably why I'm more in that realm myself. But I remember when I was getting married, she was like, I'm just going to give you a word of advice that I wish I'd known. And she was like, even if you think you can do something faster or better, please let him help you. You'll be thankful later.
Wow, I wish I got that advice.
Right? Because then you end up doing everything. And it gets into this cycle where since you've been doing it, he doesn't even know it needs to be done or that it's a thing that is done. Do you know what I mean? Imagine if like you never had to grocery shop or go to Target. Like if I never had to do all the gathering for the house, I'd be like, wow, like there's just always paper towels and I know where they are and I just go get them, Like,
right. Yes.
So we don't even give him the chance to help. Yeah.
So many people, I feel like that are listening to this can relate because it's just general like relationship stuff. You can take the anxiety part, out of it. It's just, very general relationship things. And I, feel like this is also sad in a way, but I feel like I have to internally like talk myself up. So I'll say to myself, like, wow, you did X, Y, and Z today. And you also, did a service call for the refrigerator that stopped working and the AC that stopped working. And, you kept a human alive and stuff like that. And I feel like you shouldn't have to do that. But for whatever reason, I feel like I do that. And I wish I didn't require that.
But I think most of us do. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's just being a person in the world today. Like if social media plays a role, I'm sure it does. I don't know if it's messages we've heard since we were a kid or things we've internalized from our past. I mean, I feel like there's so many reasons that we need to pump ourselves up. But I think the main reason that I learned this is, I'm kind of going to geek out with you for just a second, but there was a new research study. I want to say it came out last year. It might have been 2017, but I think it was 2018. Where they were talking about, they were trying to learn different things about the brain, and they were talking about the importance of sleep. But one of the key things that they almost just stated it like, everybody should know this. And I was like, I don't know this, and I read research stuff for my videos all the time, is that the reason that we always think the worst about ourselves, about our situation, and it's easy to remember those bad comments over the thousands of good ones, is it's our brain's duty to seek out threat so that it keeps us safe. And that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
The good things aren't a threat, so they're easy to overlook. But if something's like potentially threatening to me or my family or like my well-being, or it just gets into the core of me and makes me question, like that's a threat.
Right.
And so it holds on to it. And so I think because, and this is like now I'm just hypothesizing, but because all of our people survived from caveman days to now, it's actually helped us anxious folks are probably the ones that stayed alive. right? We were like, get out of here. That is not safe. I am nervous. Don't eat that berry. I don't know where it's from. Like, it sounds stupid.
Exactly. Oh my gosh.
Like, is that why we're all so anxious, or we're all like so worried and like self-conscious? Like, is that what it's bred in us? I don't know. I mean, I'm totally off on a tangent, but I think that's like, it's just important to remember, like, my brain is just seeking out threat. And so you have to offset that with pumping yourself up. You're doing great. That's what I would tell a patient to do. I tell a lot of my viewers, I'm like, hey, when you wake up in the morning, I want you to say 2 things that you're grateful for, and I want you to set one goal for the day that's easily achievable, like shower, or say hi to a friend, or do one thing nice for someone else or myself. What doesn't matter, something small. And then at the end of the day, I want you to do, say a couple more things you're grateful for, 2 to 3 things.
Well,
so
I love that. First of all, I'm going to now do that for myself. Is your FOMO getting out of hand? Have you been spending too much money on brunch, ramen, and festivals just to earn a few more Instagram likes? The moment passes, but credit card debt stays with you. With Lending Club, you can consolidate your debt or pay off credit cards with one fixed monthly payment. Since 2007, Lending Club has helped millions of people regain control of their finances with affordable fixed-rate personal loans. No trips to the bank, no high-interest credit cards. Just go to lendingclub.com, tell them about yourself and how much you want to borrow, pick the terms that are right for you, and if you're approved, your loan is automatically deposited into your bank account in as little as a few days. Lending Club is the #1 peer-to-peer lending platform with over $35 billion in loans issued. Go to lendingclub.com/combos, check your rate in minutes, and borrow up to $40,000. That's lendingclub.com/combos. lendingclub.com/combos. All loans made by WebBank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. I feel like waking up in the morning, and I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but like all the things that you have on your plate to do for the day, you can get very quickly overwhelmed really early in your day. And I feel like I have learned to kind of shut my brain off of thinking about task in the morning and just thinking about like immediate things that are part of my routine, if that makes sense. So
yeah,
instead of thinking about, like I have 25 errands to run in multiple states, that's not happening. Like I don't take my mind there. I try to think, okay, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to have a coffee or, energy drink or, like whatever it is. And I'm going to shower and I'm going to brush my teeth and I'm going to get Jackson ready. Like I think about all of the things that I know that like I can immediately do that's part of my daily routine, and it helps me from becoming overwhelmed.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think routines are very important. Routines do calm us in general, and we should all have like a morning and nighttime routine, especially if we struggle to sleep or wake up and we get overwhelmed. Like those are things that we can put in place. I love that you do that. It's like something that I would tell my patients to do. And so it's almost like, and I even tell myself this, I'd be like, so I'm not even going to think about my to-dos until I'm sitting having my coffee. Because if I've had my coffee, that means I've done all the other things. That's the end of my get ready routine.
Right.
It's like I've had breakfast and now I'm drinking coffee, watching the news or whatever.
Right.
And so at that point, then I'll look at my to-do list. And then another little hack is if we do feel like we have a million things to do, because do you ever think, oh, I just have 2 things to do tomorrow, and then you're like, oh, but I should also do the laundry, and then I have to do this, and then it turns into this huge, you've like spiraled down, you're like, oh my God, there's so much to do kind of feeling.
Yes.
You keep your to-do list to 7 things or less.
Okay.
And those things have to be achievable in that day. They can't be these huge projects like, oh, I'm going to record 4 podcasts and edit them all or something, let's say. You can't put that on your to-do list because that's just not achievable.
Well, it's not realistic.
No, exactly. It could just be, I'm going to, record the podcast with Katie, and that's one thing. And then I'm going to get Jackson ready for school. That's already done. Boom, easy. I'm going to run to the grocery store and the dry cleaners, like making things short. That's already like, we already have 4 things there or 5 things.
Right.
So keeping it to 7 or less, because that's all your brain can actually hold in it at one time. I think that's why I think it's phone numbers, like without the area code, are 7 numbers.
Wow.
It's just easy, like our brain just remembers that. So
right.
That's something just to kind of keep in mind when we're creating these like astronomically long lists. I make like a big list and then I highlight them per day. So like, let's say Monday is all pink highlighter and I have 7 things. Then Tuesday's yellow. And so we feel like we're achieving something and we're not overwhelmed, which is a fine balance.
First of all, my brain will be going in a multiple like different directions because I'm also ADD. So I think it's like the worst combo. So I will be thinking about a million things and it's like a hamster on a wheel, you know, it's like it never, I feel like I'm never stopping, but I'm also never going anywhere. So I did get this to-do list and it has my name on it and it's super cute and it's just like a disposable to-do list from Erin Condren. And it has Monday through Friday and then a weekend tab on there. And it's just basically helps me like compartmentalize like, okay, these are the things that you're going to definitely do on Monday, because I found making a general to-do list of like tasks, but not notating like what day I'm trying to get them done.
Yeah.
That doesn't work either.
No, it's overwhelming because then every day it feels like you have to do that whole list.
Yeah. And then I'm just like, oh, wow, I failed. Like I only got 2 things done, but it might have been like a week's worth of work, you know, on there. So
exactly.
This has been easier for me to be able to kind of compartmentalize my, you know, task that I need to get done. And I think it's hard too because women just generally operate different than men. And so you could probably give my husband like 10 things on a to-do list and he is like go, go, go. He's go, go, go all the time. So him being go, go, go all the time, he gets stuff done. Now it might be halfway done, but he gets stuff done. Me, I'm not as go, 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 but I'm efficient when I do something.
Well, yeah, there's 2 ways we can do things. Like one is just knock them out, like in order on the list. And the other is to do them in the most efficient way possible so you can actually maybe do more things. Do you know what I mean? Like if I'm running errands, I go the farthest away from my house first. And then I work my way back and then I'm like, oh, I should probably also get gas and I'll get that here. And you know what I mean? It's like,
yes,
there are other things, whereas, you know, men maybe tend to just do the things you asked. And even if they knew the car was low on gas, they're like, I'll just do it another time. You know, it's not on my list.
Well, okay. So I did do a Q&A thing on Instagram to where people could ask questions about anxiety and preparation for this episode. So I want to. Oh, you did see it? Okay. So
I was like, oh, should I put one in?
I wanted to turn to that and answer some of the listener questions. And this was for Coffee Combos listeners. So I hope the people that ask these questions actually listen, or else they're never going to get the answer.
Get their answer.
So the first question is, at what point do you go to the doctor for anxiety?
I think if it's impeding your ability to do anything in your life, like in therapy, we call it like impairing your function. So like if it's hard at school or work or with your relationships, if it's affecting your social life in some way or just your at-home life, like notice if, like most of my patients or even my friends who struggle with anxiety will tell me like, oh, it made me nervous to drive or to leave my house, so I had to see someone. So if you find it making something more difficult for you, at least like, let's say for a few weeks or up to a month, that's as long as I would wait, please go see someone. The sooner the better, to be honest.
Well, and on that note, you were talking about driving in the car. That was another thing that I also experienced, that every time I would get in the car, if there was traffic coming like the same direction as me, I would think like the most terrible things, like, oh, that person's going to hit me. And I would try to like drive my car on the closest side to the opposite side of the road as like where those cars would be coming, avoiding something
so
that probably
farthest away.
Yeah, was never going to probably happen. But it was like coping mechanism I think that I used to deal with it, because I thought they were just going to like crash into me.
Yeah, and part of that's like you could look up like intrusive thoughts. That's kind of where those come from.
Right.
And it's definitely part of anxiety. And they're usually, this just to normalize it, intrusive thoughts are not things that you've like created on your own. You don't actually believe this, but it's always violent or sexual in nature, which I know sounds really weird, but like that, those just happen to be what intrusive thoughts are, and they're born out of our anxiety.
Wow. Okay. Good to know. Okay. Yeah. The next question is, why does my anxiety get worse as I get older?
I think anything gets worse if we don't treat it. Because anything, it's like it'll build. Do you know what I mean? Because anxiety especially, it's like it builds on itself. Especially if we have like if we have a tendency for more kind of the OCD component where we have kind of obsessions and compulsions that come along with it, we can build these huge rituals that we have to do in order to be safe. Or like yesterday, or I don't know, last year, we were able to keep our house clean. So now it's not just house clean. Now I also feel like I need to have all the laundry done and folded before, my partner comes home from work or whatever. Or, we start building on it, because if the thing is to soothe, that's what all those like actions that we take, it like is supposed to help soothe our anxiety, even though it technically doesn't help. We think it is. And so it can build and build and build unless we find other ways to cope. Does that make sense?
Yes. And you literally just described me as a human being. So it definitely makes sense. The next question, and I'm just going to ask this one generic because there was a ton of questions about this. Does CBD help?
It can. I haven't tried it personally. I'm a nervous Nelly, as most of us who are anxious,
Same.
I guess, are. But I have had patients, viewers, and friends alike tell me that CBD does help. There's different kinds of things. I think the most important thing from what I've read so far, and I do plan on doing more research on it as we know more about it, but just making sure that there's like no THC in general in whatever you're taking. That's how you know it's CBD. THC is what makes you high, for anybody who doesn't know, because my patients who don't ask enough questions have gotten things that have then made them feel high, and then they're more anxious. And so just making sure that it is CBD, it is from a reliable source. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. It's definitely helped some people. And it's a natural way to cope, maybe, I just feel like we need to know more information, because there's no like long-term studies on it or anything since it was just legalized.
Well, I'm definitely a studier by nature, and so I want to know everything. That's why I didn't want to take medicine, because I'm like, okay, if there's these side effects, then I would rather have the anxiety than the possible side effects, So
yeah, same. Yeah.
I like pro and con everything. And so people did ask specifically if I had tried CBD, and I have not. The only CBD things that I've ever tried is Kale's hairline. So, but that's,
the pothead. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for my hair. But as far as like using it for anxiety or anything like that, I haven't. So I can't really speak on something that I don't know enough information about or have tried myself.
Yeah. And I do know, like, this is just what I know. This is like, I have a close friend of mine who did go to, like, because I'm in California, so it's legal, went to, like, the pot store and told them that he struggled to sleep because of his anxiety, and he struggled with panic attacks for a long time. And they gave him a certain strand of weed, and he takes, like, 2 puffs and goes to sleep. And he said it's, like, changed his life. Like, it's made it so much better. And I'm not a doctor. I also don't I don't know everything about weed in general, marijuana as a whole. But I know that the people at those stores and stuff can be pretty educated. So it's okay to go in and ask and then do your own research and then make a decision that makes you feel good.
Right. Perfect. Okay. The next question is, why do you think so many people in our generation suffer from anxiety?
I think it's a lot of things. Like we were kind of talking about earlier, I don't know if it's just because of like survival, like that's why we're all here, because we're anxious and we saved ourselves, and like so our families continued. But I also think the never turning off kind of thing, like the social media push, I think is definitely attributing to it, because it's a constant comparison game. It's a constant keep up. I have to do something. Oh, I should story about this. Oh, I should tell them I should make this post. Oh, I need to post this photo. I need to take a photo. Like I think we've lost the just in the momentness. I think social media has kind of taken that from us, and I believe we'll figure it out. Like we'll stop being so anxious about that kind of stuff and able to kind of return to, us going to lunch and not pulling out our phones once. I think that can come back, but I think that definitely feeds into it. What do you think?
Well, just from being a part of reality TV, I see things, from a perspective of constant judgment. And I feel like with having a social media following, that you have to feel like you have to be to a certain standard. And I think that just in general, like you've got these high school girls out here, sometimes you'll be on your Explorer page and you'll click on a, pretty picture and it's like some high school girl. And it's like, okay, first of all, that's not what I looked like in high school. Secondly, why does that child feel like they need to, keep up like that? Because that's a problem in itself. And I just think that there's just like this push of anxiety in young girls, particularly because girls want to be desired. And I think that, the social media aspect of it and like being Instagram worthy and so on and so forth, I think that definitely adds an additional stress that I didn't have whenever I was growing up. So, but I also feel like I had anxiety growing up, but just for different reasons. But I do also feel like, back to what you said, like, storing things in the moment and so on and so forth. I have learned that with social media that I try to do things in the moment. I might have my phone out and I might be taking a story of something, but I'm not posting. So I will take a video of something and then put my phone away and enjoy the moment and the time that I'm in. And then I will post like after the fact so that I can actually enjoy the moment, but also share. Yeah.
No, I think that's great. Yeah. And I also wonder if like being women too, and this sounds, I don't know if this sounds a little old fashioned for people, but it's like we fought to be able to have all these rights and do things and be equal and be able to work, but we never let go of the like, I do everything else at the house thing. And I think that that definitely feeds into my anxiety, is like I do so much work, but then I also am like, but I also am in charge of all this when I'm not. Like I would just have to ask my husband to help and he would. But I think it's like the expectation of doing it all and having it all is too much.
Well, and see, you have like these, people in different generations that came before us. Like, for example, I'll use my grandmother because she definitely probably contributed to some of my anxiety to an extent because after I got married, she's like, you need to make sure that his clothes are cleaned and pressed and hung up and a hot meal on the table and the house is clean. And when he comes home, like everything's perfect. And it's like, that sounds good and great. I also, I have Instagram and then I have the podcast and then I just started a new business. So I have a lot of things that are also going on outside of like making sure that Will's like white t-shirt is pressed.
Totally. And they're more than capable of doing it themselves. We do it ourselves. It's like, I think the division of responsibilities in families should be more 50-50. And I think that's something that even I'm guilty of taking more than my fair share,
And maybe like as women become more, I don't see it happening like immediate, but as, women take stances on, career and take stances on time and stuff like that, because we all have the same 24 hours in a day. So I feel like, you know, why should it be that a woman is required to do X, Y, and Z, also have a job, but the expectation for men is if they're doing anything more than their job, then, you know, we should be very thankful. To them.
Yeah, like, wow, look at you. I totally agree. And I think like, we are shifting. Yeah.
I'm like, where is my respect? Like,
right.
Can somebody please give it to me? Because I would just like to hear it like one time, you know, like, yes, you worked all day today, and, you know, I also worked all day today. I also took care of Jackson all day today. I also went to the grocery store. I also went to the bank. I also did service calls. I also, you know, and it's like, but nobody cares.
Yeah, it's like expected. It's crazy. But yeah, I think it's just how we talk to one another about it, how we like give kudos to our friends we know are doing all of that work. You know, there's a lot of ways that I think we can kind of change the conversation, and it'll take time, but arguably we're moving in the right direction, because from like your grandma, my grandma, it's totally different, you know,
totally.
Like it's totally shifted. So I'm
like, you do realize we live in a different time now. Like, people aren't pushing wagons anymore, right?
Also, who irons anymore? I never iron.
Well, this is the funny thing. I'm a weird person about ironing. Like, I will not wear wrinkled clothes, but you LA people, y'all are
wrinkly.
Y'all are wrinkly as fuck.
We just roll out of bed.
Yeah, you just roll out of bed, and it's like this lived-in look, and like, I respect it. You know, it's like, I'm so glad that y'all can nilly-willy just like go around in wrinkled clothes, but like the thoughts of me putting on wrinkled clothes literally sends me up a wall. It makes me anxious, like everything else in my life. The next question is how to respond when someone replies with, well, everyone nowadays has anxiety. I love this question.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, I think, first of all, like, other people can have their opinions and leave comments, but that doesn't mean that you have to even engage. Like, one of my friends, she says this, and it was like one of my favorite quotes of hers that I've repeated over and over. And she's like, just because you invite me to a conversation doesn't mean I have to show up. And so if someone is like belittling you or trying to invalidate your experience, it doesn't mean that you have to even comment. Like, I honestly take, like, in my own social media, and people, because trolls and people who talk shit are just out there. And so I will, for me, I just ignore it, because it's just not worth, like, I'm an adult. Like, I don't want to talk to them.
Well, I mean, there's certain people that, like, on social media, it might be like weeks that I can go and somebody says something negative and I'm like, okay, whatever. And then it gets like that one comment and it's like your breaking point, and you don't even realize that you had gotten to a breaking point, but it's like so much buildup, and then you just explode on that person and you're like, but why did I really just do that? Like, what did I get out of it other than the fact that I feel really empowered?
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like it's pushed you, because people wouldn't say that stuff to your face either. That's the thing about comments and social media. It like gives people more power than normal. So I think for that comment, like, first of all, I'd ignore it if you feel like you can. If you can't, I would comment back, like, just with facts. I'd be like, well, anxiety is the most common mental illness in the world, affecting over 40 million people. I think that's the number. But you can look that up. And it is really common. So yeah, thanks for calling that out. It is really common. I would just like play the, like, it's almost like facts. When people leave, and that's just the truth, and be like, yeah, everybody, it's very common. Do you realize that in like 1 in 5 globally are affected with mental illness, and anxiety is the most common. So I think there's like a lot of ways to just, you don't have to fight, but you can just give them the facts.
You're so PC, Katie. I just love it. Okay, so the last question that we're going to answer, and I think I kind of touched on this earlier in the episode, but can anxiety be an environment?
An environment can make it worse. I think it's like, because anxiety itself is just like having constant worry, like general anxiety disorders, like when you have constant worry and you can't control it no matter how much you want to, and you just worry about everything. And I think some environments, like some work environments, can be so stressful that the stress turns into anxiety. Because there's a big difference that people need to understand. The difference between stress and anxiety is that stress always has a trigger. It's that project I'm working on. It's that meeting coming up. It's a thing. Anxiety can come out of nowhere. It doesn't always have a reason. I mean, it may deep down, if we've done a lot of work on ourselves, we're like, oh, it was 3 weeks ago that person said that thing and I've been like holding on to it. But it comes out of nowhere. It happens in our brain and it leads us to feeling panic, overwhelm, all of those things. So I think differentiating between that's important, and knowing that one can turn into the other, like stress can turn into anxiety. And if you find yourself around people who bring you down and make you feel worse, limit your time with those people. You know, not everybody deserves the right to be in your life.
That's what I was saying earlier on. I feel like environments can trigger anxiety, maybe.
Yes.
There's definitely people in my life, and I won't mention, names, but there's people that have been in my life that I feel like when I get in an environment around them, that my whole mood changes. I become anxious, especially people who are like unpredictable people. And I feel like you have to learn, when you do have anxiety and you're not, medicated for it, and you try to do like natural, coping mechanisms, I feel like you have to be strong enough to move people out of your life that cause you anxiety. But you have to be able to recognize that those people are causing you anxiety. And I think it's like a whole like self-awareness thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of it can be figured out by just, if you had a really like shit day where you felt super anxious, like track back to why that was, think back through your day. And then I always like to tell people, like, if someone is a trigger for you, if you think it's a simple fix, like, hey, when you tell me all the stuff that you need me to do, I'm overwhelmed. It'd be easier if you just like, texted it to me once and then just said, get to this when you can, like whatever would fix it. I don't know. You have to figure out that for yourself. But if it's a simple fix, just talk to them. You don't have to just like avoid them. You can talk to them and see if they'll work with you. Not everybody will, but give them the chance to. Right.
I definitely agree with that and have definitely had to have those conversations. So 100% on board with that advice. Can you tell our listeners where they can find you, where they can find your videos, etc.?
Yeah, my name is Kati Morton, so I'm on YouTube. I have a huge YouTube channel with over 1,300 videos. You can go and search Kati Morton, any kind of question you have, anxiety, depression, whatever. I also have a book that came out last December called Are You Okay? A Guide to Caring for Your Mental Health. You can find it on Amazon or wherever books are sold. And all my social media is just Kati Morton, KATIMORTON.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and talking about anxiety, because I know it affects so many people, and I'm so grateful that I was able to share my story in a raw and authentic way, and I hope it helps somebody.
Yeah, me too. And thanks for having me.
All right, guys, I think that's all we have time for today. If you have not subscribed to us, you can do that by searching Coffee Convos Podcast on your Purple Podcast app for iTunes. Type in Coffee Convos, click subscribe, click the 5th star, and you can also leave us a written review. We hope you guys have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon.
This podcast is brought to you by Wave Podcast Network. Check out all of our shows, including the Brain Candy Podcast, I Don't Get It, Coffee Convos, and Let's Talk About It.